chosen ones. They didn't see it coming, did they? Not the way you elevated, not the way you overcame, and certainly not the way you did it, gracefully, powerfully, and in complete silence. Now they're speechless, staring, stunned, and scrambling to rewrite the narratives they once told about you. This transformation didn't happen overnight, but it happened with precision. The same ones who used to whisper your shortcomings now whisper your name like it's a legend in the making. Wait, how did they do that, they ask? When did that happen? Who helped them? And here's the truth. No one but God. No crowd, no spotlight. Just divine alignment and unshakable faith. You see, the world loves a rags to riches story, but they get uncomfortable when the plot twist is spiritual, when the one they wrote off turns out to be chosen. Take the true story of Madam C.J. Walker, born Sarah Breedlove, the first self-made female millionaire in America, orphaned at 7, widowed by 20, mocked and dismissed for her background and appearance. She prayed harder than she spoke and worked in silence until the world had no choice but to acknowledge her greatness. That's not just history, that's prophecy echoed through your life. Just like her, you were overlooked, misunderstood, and maybe even laughed at. But you stayed focused. You didn't clap back. You clapped forward. You let your actions thunder while your voice remained a whisper. You were the wild card in every deck, the anomaly that refused to fold. And now, you're the main character in a story that was supposed to end in failure. People don't know how you did it because you didn't leave a trail. No mess, no drama, just elevation. You rose without a mentor in your corner, without trending hashtags, and without begging for seats at tables you were destined to build. You succeeded without seeking validation from crowds who would have cheered louder for your downfall. That's why they're confused. That's why they're watching, because your breakthrough broke their predictions. You didn't just survive the storm, you became one. And now, you're changing atmospheres just by walking into rooms. The very people who doubted you are now hiding their envy behind forced applause. The ones who once said, "You'll never make it," are now saying, "How did you make it look so easy?" This video isn't just a message, it's confirmation. A reminder that your quiet obedience became a loud testimony, that your hidden grind is now a visible glory. And as we walk through this journey together, you'll come to realize the silence that protected you was also the silence that stunned them. So stay humble, stay ready, because what's coming next? It's not just success, it's legacy. Let's get into it. Point 1, you made it without selling out, chosen. 1, your glow up didn't just shock them, it broke the algorithm. In a world that equates success with selling out, with selfies over self-awareness and clout over character, you quietly redefined the narrative. See, most people are conditioned to believe that in order to rise, you have to bend the truth, bend your values, and bend your spine under the weight of people-pleasing. But you stood unbent. That alone makes you a walking paradox, because while others were rehearsing personas, you were refining your purpose. Let's get real. Society runs on performance. We've been trained to curate lives, filter our flaws, and play roles to win favor. Psychologically, this is called the impression management theory, where people try to control how others perceive them, especially in high-stakes environments. It's a survival tactic in competitive spaces, but you chose authenticity over acceptance. And that makes you unpredictable, dangerous even, because people can't manipulate someone who's not performing for their approval. That's why you confuse them. You didn't scheme or strategize your way to the top. You stayed grounded, even when the ground beneath you was shaking. That's not luck, that's spiritual stamina. The truth is, you could have sold out. There were moments when the shortcut whispered sweet lies in your ear. Times when betrayal seemed like the easier route. But you made the rare decision to protect your peace over popularity. And that's wild to people who only know how to win by breaking others. They watched you walk away from fake friends, pass up shady deals, and refuse to compromise your ethics, even when it cost you opportunities. But what they don't see is that every no in the physical was a loud yes in the spirit. You didn't just trust the process, you trusted the source. And oh, that favor, that's what really drives them crazy, because favor can't be bought, taught, or faked. It's not a formula you find in a success seminar, it's divine. It's encoded into your path. The kind of favor that opened doors you never knocked on, that aligned you with people who saw your worth before you said a word, that elevated you when you had no credentials, no connections, just calling. That kind of rise feels supernatural because it is. People stare at your journey like it's a riddle. They think there has to be a catch. They must have had help, they must have played the game, they must have compromised somewhere. But the real answer makes them uncomfortable. You were chosen. And chosen ones don't rise the way the world expects. You don't beg, you believe, you don't hustle, you align, you don't strive, you surrender. That's the power they can't decode. You leveled up, but you kept your light. You didn't need to dim anyone else's just to make yours shine brighter. And in a world that teaches scarcity, that alone is revolutionary. Your humility wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. Because you knew that the more you stayed true, the more the truth would make room for you. Proverbs 18:16 says, "A man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men." And that's exactly what happened. You didn't push your way in, you were positioned. So now they're studying you, not just watching, but dissecting, analyzing, and trying to trace your steps like a treasure map. But what they don't realize is that the real map was written on your soul before you ever arrived. It wasn't hustle, it wasn't hype, it was heaven. And that's why no matter how closely they follow, they still can't duplicate the results. Because you, chosen one, didn't just make it. You made it without losing you. And in this world, that might just be the rarest kind of success of all. Point 2, you went silent, then shocked them. Let's be real. When you went quiet, they assumed you quit. They saw your absence and thought, aha, that's it, they gave up. But chosen one, they misunderstood the entire assignment. What looked like a vanishing act was actually a spiritual strategy. You weren't hiding, you were healing. You weren't defeated, you were developing. You didn't disappear because you failed. You retreated because the next version of you required isolation, not an audience. In psychology, this is known as the hermit phase, a stage in personal transformation where individuals naturally withdraw to reconnect with their inner wisdom, values, and spiritual identity. It's not depression, it's divine recalibration. Just like the caterpillar dissolves inside the chrysalis before emerging as a butterfly, you were undergoing internal reconstruction. The world loves instant success stories, but real transformation? That happens in silence, in the shadows, in the in-between, and you, chosen one, embraced it all. While others were binge scrolling, chasing trends, gossiping in group chats, or flexing for social media clout, you were focused on building, not just goals, but your character, your stamina, and your alignment with Source. You were investing in the unseen, strengthening your spirit, disciplining your mind, healing your heart, and planning with precision. That's why, when you returned, you didn't just bounce back, you leveled up. And not in a loud, performative way. You came back elevated but grounded, glowing but humble. You came back different, the kind of different you can't fake. Your silence, chosen one, was louder than their noise, because people expect you to announce your every move. We live in an age where, if it's not posted, it didn't happen. But you knew better. You understood the power of strategic silence. See, lions don't roar while they hunt. Chess masters don't reveal their checkmate plans on move 2. And you stopped playing checkers with people who couldn't see the board you were on. That's why your energy became unpredictable, unsettling, even threatening, because they couldn't track your next step. And when people can't predict you, they panic. It's funny, people think silence is weakness, but in neuroscience, silence is proven to rebuild the brain. Research from Duke University found that just 2 hours of silence daily leads to cell development in the hippocampus, the part of the brain associated with memory, learning, and emotion. So while they were busy with noise, you were literally rewiring yourself for expansion. Your stillness was power. Your retreat was preparation. And when you returned, it was clear you weren't re-entering the game, you were redefining it. And let's talk about the haters, because they felt that glow up. They watched the new you roll in, peaceful, purposeful, unbothered, and it disturbed their spirit. Why? Because they had invested in your downfall. Some people need you to fail so they can feel better about not changing. Your evolution became a mirror they couldn't handle. Your silence made them uncomfortable because it forced them to sit with their own noise. And every time you reappeared, calmer, clearer, classier, it triggered them. Because you were proof that healing is real, growth is possible, and isolation isn't punishment, it's power. Your new energy is different. You don't chase, you attract, you don't explain, you exemplify, you don't flex, you flow. People are used to loud leaders, but you're a quiet storm. And every time you show up, it's another reminder that you don't need applause to validate your progress. You're too aligned for approval, too focused for gossip, too elevated for ego games. You've tapped into something deeper, divine timing. And now that you're back, you're not playing small ever again. So yes, chosen one, let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them squint trying to read you like a status update. Because the truth is, while they were waiting for drama, you were designing destiny. You were reloading, and the version of you that emerged, that's the one they weren't ready for. Point 3, you didn't need their validation. Chosen one, let's unpack this power move you made because you really did that. No campaign, no parade, no desperate online pleas for support, no flashy rollouts or choreographed hype. You moved in silence, trusted your intuition, and let your obedience to the calling speak louder than any status update. And in a world obsessed with oversharing every microscopic moment for the sake of clout, that kind of self-assured restraint, it terrifies people. You didn't post your every step. You didn't host pity parties in your stories or beg for validation through performative captions. You understood something most people never grasp. Real alignment doesn't require approval. All you needed was God's whisper and your own internal green light, that divine yes, that holy nudge, that gut feeling that said, go anyway. And that's what carried you. No committee, no cheerleaders, just purpose and power. Now let's talk psychology for a second. According to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, most people spend their lives chasing esteem, recognition, respect, and admiration. Social media feeds that desire like candy. Dopamine spikes from likes and comments keep people hooked, but you, chosen one, you skipped the sugar high. You were after something real. You didn't crave applause, you chased assignment. Your currency wasn't validation, it was vision. And that's why you didn't panic when support was absent, because you were rooted in something deeper, faith over fame. That's what gets under people's skin, the fact that you were perfectly willing to build in the dark, alone, if that's what it took. You didn't wait for the room to clap before you started your performance. You didn't need someone else to co-sign your anointing. You were ready to walk the lonely road if it meant staying aligned with your calling. That's rare, that's sacred. That's divine obedience. And let's be honest, obedience is a spiritual discipline most people avoid because it requires surrender, sacrifice, and solitude. But you, chosen one, you embodied it with grace. That independence you walk in, it intimidates the crowd. Your refusal to rely on praise to keep going, it scares them. See, most people are addicted to external validation. They want to be liked, followed, adored, but you made peace with being misunderstood. You learned to survive silence. You trained yourself to keep moving when the room was quiet. The likes didn't come, and the support didn't show. That's power, that's spiritual maturity, that's kingdom behavior, and here's the real kicker. Your faith is bulletproof. People couldn't manipulate you with a compliment, and they couldn't break you with their absence. That's when they knew they couldn't control you. When someone can't sway your path with praise or punish you with silence, you become dangerous in the best way. That kind of emotional sovereignty, that's not just rare, it's revolutionary. You're not addicted to the crowd, you're not looking to blend in, you're called to stand apart. Your presence disrupts the program, your discipline exposes their distractions. Your loyalty to the vision puts their people-pleasing in perspective. That's why your success isn't just surprising, it's unsettling. You didn't hustle for hype, you humbled yourself for purpose. And it worked. People talk about going viral, but you went vertical. You aligned with something higher. And when you rise like that, people don't always cheer. Sometimes they stare. Sometimes they whisper. Sometimes they hate. But none of that stopped you. Because you knew from the start, your journey wasn't about being seen. It was about being sent. So let them wonder how you did it. Let them speculate. Because the truth is, while they were chasing trends, you were chasing truth. While they needed a crowd to move, you just needed confirmation from God. That's the difference. That's the edge. That's why you're not just surviving, you're soaring. Point 4, you rose while they were rooting for your fall. Let's be real, chosen one. You've seen the smiles that didn't reach the eyes, the hugs that felt hollow, the congratulations laced with envy. Not everyone in your corner was clapping for your victory. Some were sitting there with popcorn, just waiting for you to fail, smiling in your face like a friend, but secretly praying for your downfall like a rival. And to make matters worse, some of those very people didn't just wait for you to stumble. They actively tried to make it happen. Subtle sabotage, sneaky shade, backhanded compliments, and even direct betrayal. They tossed stones with clean hands, thinking they could watch you crumble without leaving fingerprints. But here's the plot twist they never saw coming. The very stones they threw to break you down became the very tools that built you up. That's not just poetic justice, it's divine orchestration. See, in the spiritual realm, there's a principle at play. What the enemy meant for evil, God can turn for good, Genesis 50:20. Every lie told about you became an opportunity to walk in integrity. Every door they tried to shut became a redirection towards something greater. Every tear you cried in silence watered the roots of your future strength. You kept rising. And not because it was easy, no, it was painful. There were moments when it felt like the weight of everything might crush you. The betrayals, the isolation, the rumors, the pressure. You were walking through emotional fire, and yet you didn't burn out. You endured. You didn't just survive, you transformed. While they were hoping you'd fold, you were being forged. Like gold in the fire, like a diamond under pressure, you emerged refined. And even when it got lonely, and it did get lonely, you stayed in alignment. That's the part they don't understand. They don't get how you didn't snap back with bitterness. You didn't sink to their level. You didn't clap back with petty posts or revenge energy. No, you stayed true to your calling. You stayed rooted in your faith. You let the process polish you instead of poison you. And now, now they're watching. They're watching you soar with their mouths slightly open like, wait, wasn't this the same person we laughed at? The same one we counted out? The same one we said would never make it? Yes, that same one. And look at you now. You became a walking contradiction to every assumption they made about you. You shattered their expectations without saying a single word. Because here's the truth. Nothing shuts up a hater like undeniable progress. You didn't have to announce your comeback. You didn't have to craft a clapback. You didn't even need to expose them. You let your elevation do the talking. That's why they're so uncomfortable. Because while they were busy trying to break you, you were busy becoming unbreakable. While they were stirring drama, you were stirring destiny. While they were playing small games, you were building something real. You weren't fueled by vengeance. You were fueled by vision. That's spiritual maturity. That's kingdom behavior. That's next level living. And now the awkward silence, that's their confusion, that stunned expression. That's the weight of their own regret, because the person they tried to bury wasn't dead, you were planted. And what they forgot is that buried seeds grow. You didn't just grow, you glowed. You didn't retaliate, you rose. So let them sit in the seats they chose, the ones in the audience. Because now, chosen one, you're on the stage they swore you'd never reach. And the best part, you're just getting started. Point 5, you chose purpose over popularity. Chosen one, let's break this all the way down. You had every opportunity to take the easy route, the flashy route, the fast fame freeway. You could have gone viral overnight if you were willing to twist your truth, compromise your values, or dilute your calling just to fit the algorithm. In today's culture, where shock gets views and fake gets followers, you could have played the game. Post something wild, say something controversial, or fake a persona just for engagement. But you didn't. You didn't sell your soul for visibility. You chose legacy over likes. You chose kingdom over clout. That's rare, that's powerful. And that's exactly what sets you apart, because you're not here to be a fleeting moment in someone's feed. You're here to be a movement, a divine disruption in a world addicted to distractions. You understood that purpose can't be microwaved. That integrity will always take longer, but it will also last longer. You're not chasing trends, you're chasing transformation. And that terrifies people, because you're not doing it for attention, you're doing it on assignment. You're not trying to impress people, you're trying to impact souls. Most folks can't relate to that level of focus. See, they spend their days refreshing notifications, hoping the dopamine hit from another like will validate them. But you don't need applause to feel anointed. Your worth isn't wrapped in numbers. You understand something deeper, the difference between being called and being popular. You are sent, not self-appointed. Your spiritual GPS is calibrated by a higher frequency. You take your cues from heaven, not the crowd. And when people realize they can't manipulate you with attention, when they see that their silence doesn't shake you and their praise doesn't possess you, they start to panic. Because in a world where most are desperate to be seen, you are dangerous because you're content being hidden until it's time. You're not hustling for a moment. You're preparing for a mantle. And this is the part they don't teach in motivational seminars. Favor can't be faked. The hand of God on your life isn't something you can Photoshop or caption your way into. It shows up in your resilience, your discernment, your quiet confidence, and that shakes people. They can't figure you out because you're not performing, you're becoming. Even psychology backs this up. People who operate with intrinsic motivation, driven by internal purpose rather than external rewards, tend to be more focused, resilient, and fulfilled. That's you. You're driven by conviction, not clout. And research has shown that people with a strong sense of purpose not only experience greater psychological well-being, but they're also less swayed by peer pressure and social comparison. So while everyone else is chasing relevancy, you're cultivating reverence. That hits different. Let's talk spiritual strategy for a moment. The enemy doesn't mind if you're visible, as long as you're ineffective. He doesn't mind you being famous, as long as you're faithless. But you refuse to bow to the idol of attention. You'd rather be obedient than on brand, and that's what makes you a real threat. You're not afraid to be misunderstood for a season if it means walking in purpose for a lifetime. You'd rather lose followers than lose favor. That's kingdom logic. And yes, some people may laugh. They'll roll their eyes and call you too deep, too serious, too different. But the same people who mocked Noah while he built the ark wished they had listened when the rain came. Keep building, chosen one. Keep showing up with excellence, even when no one's clapping. Keep honoring God in the quiet. Because when the time is right, and divine timing is always right, your authenticity will echo louder than any trend ever could. You weren't made to trend. You were made to transform. And trust me, the world needs what you're carrying. Stay focused. Stay faithful. Your legacy is loading. Point 6, you let God do the talking. You didn't clap back. You didn't post a long thread explaining yourself. You didn't write vague captions meant to jab at the people who wronged you. Nope. You sat still. You stayed quiet when you could have gone off. You stayed kind when they were messy. You stayed focused when distractions came dressed like drama. And instead of putting your energy into defending yourself, you let the results speak. And oh, how loud your results are speaking now. See, the real ones don't waste time clapping back. They're too busy clapping forward. Every time someone counted you out, you got more focused. Every time someone tried to dim your light, God turned up your wattage. While they were gossiping, you were growing. While they were watching your stories, you were writing a new one. And now you've become what they never saw coming. A living testimony. Not just a comeback story, but a full-blown elevation. You didn't just bounce back, you leveled up with grace. This isn't luck, it's divine alignment. Scripture reminds us in Proverbs 18:16 that a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before the great. You didn't have to scheme, you didn't have to push your way in, you just stewarded your gift and trusted the timing, that obedience, that stillness, that maturity. That is what God blesses. Because when you don't fight your own battles, heaven steps in and flexes on your behalf. And here's what they don't tell you. Nothing silences your enemies like undeniable fruit. Jesus said in Matthew 7:16, you will know them by their fruits. In other words, don't waste time trying to convince people. Just be who God called you to be. Just keep producing, because fruit don't lie. It's hard to argue with progress. People can throw shade, but shade don't stop sunlight. And your harvest? Oh, it's making noise. Let's get practical and psychological for a moment. In leadership studies, researchers often discuss something called transformational leadership, where the leader influences not by dominance or noise, but by quiet consistency and example. That's you. You're not dragging people to see your worth. Your results are leading the conversation. Even neuroscience backs it. When a person rises through resilience and discipline rather than retaliation, they cultivate neural patterns that strengthen emotional intelligence and long-term success. Translation, you stayed calm, and that calm became your superpower. You've gone from being overlooked to being undeniable, from being whispered about to being watched closely. The ones who used to laugh behind your back now study you from afar. They don't understand how you did it because you didn't advertise your pain or your process. You just produced. You let them talk while you built. You didn't interrupt their assumptions. You let your outcome interrupt their narrative. And chosen one, let's not skip this part. Your obedience did what your arguments never could. Your discipline did what no debate would have accomplished. You held your peace, and God held your reputation. That's spiritual strategy at its finest. In Exodus 14:14 it says, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." You lived that, you practiced that, and now your stillness is shaking people louder than your voice ever could. This is the season where your harvest will start making headlines in rooms you've never entered. Don't be surprised when people circle back with "I always believed in you" energy. Just smile and keep growing. Because this next level isn't about proving them wrong, it's about proving God right. He knew who you were all along. He saw your seed when nobody else did. And now it's harvest time, and the fruit is preaching sermons without you saying a word. So keep watering your purpose. Keep pruning your character. Keep basking in the sun, because chosen one, your silence was never weakness. It was strategy. And now your life is the loudest mic drop of them all. Point 7, you remained humble through it all. This is what really drives them crazy. You made it, and you didn't lose yourself in the process. You didn't trade your soul for status or reshape your personality to fit the mold of success. Instead, you emerged from the fire more authentic, more rooted, and more aligned with your higher purpose. In a world that celebrates reinvention at the cost of identity, your consistency is disruptive. Psychologists refer to this as authentic self-concept maintenance. The rare ability to remain true to who you are even as your environment, income, and influence evolve. It's not just about resisting ego, it's about embodying a deeper emotional resilience, a kind of internal anchoring that keeps you steady while everything around you is shifting. You didn't become a new version of yourself, you became a clearer version. There's a difference between transformation and distortion. One brings you closer to your purpose, the other pulls you away. You chose the former, and it shows. Instead of adopting arrogance, you embraced awareness. You didn't let applause replace accountability. You remembered your roots, honored your struggles, and continued to give credit where it's due to God. In today's culture of hyper-individualism, that alone is revolutionary. While others chant self-made, you whisper God-led. And to those watching from the sidelines, that doesn't just confuse them, it convicts them. Because your life, your peace, and your rise are not just personal victories, they are spiritual evidence. You didn't get here by accident or manipulation. You moved with intention, walked by faith, and elevated without exploitation. That kind of success, the kind that doesn't break your character or bankrupt your spirit, is incredibly rare. And when people see it, they don't know whether to applaud or feel ashamed for ever doubting you. You glowed up, yes, but you also grew up. The evolution wasn't just in your appearance or achievements, it was in your maturity, your discernment, and your grace. You didn't use your success to silence others, you used it to stay silent when others tried to provoke you. You didn't climb by stepping on others, you rose by lifting those around you, and through it all you maintained your peace, your joy, and your connection to the divine. That kind of strength is supernatural. It's not something you fake for social media. It's something you earn through battle-tested faith and unwavering obedience. And here's the kicker. While they were waiting for your success to change you, it only deepened your humility. That contradiction, that divine paradox, is what makes your story so powerful. You became the mirror they didn't expect. When they look at you now, they're not just seeing someone who made it, they're seeing what it looks like to succeed without selling out. And that hits different because deep down, they know they could have done it the right way too, but they chose shortcuts. You didn't clap back at the doubters, you didn't throw shade, you let your consistency speak, you let your peace preach, you let your blessings unfold in silence while the noise around you got louder and more desperate. And now they have to watch, not because they support you, but because they're captivated by something they can't explain. You didn't just win, you won righteously. And that, chosen one, is a whole different kind of threat. So stay shining, stay surrendered, stay chosen, because the favor over your life isn't just evident, it's undeniable. And the more they try to make sense of it, the more they'll realize they can't stop what God has already ordained.